Hey, how's it going? Today is day 5 and we're going to talk about, sorry, this is a little bit late because yesterday we had a team offsite. So basically the entire team is visiting here for this week. And it's a little bit difficult for me to consistently, it's just really hard to make videos every single day. Trying to capture thoughts, talk about them, edit them, and then post at the regular schedule. Well, anyway, I made that promise to upload every single day for 60 days straight, so I'll try to keep to that as much as possible, but it's definitely really hard. So lately I've been reading a book called Antifragile, and I thought it was really a great book because some of the things that goes into that book really shouts out to the ability to stay resilient in the face of obstacles, in the face of adversity. And not just to weather the storm, so to speak, but to get stronger from these obstacles, from these adversities. And that's something that I thought was really interesting because the thought of antifragility really resonates. Especially, there's another book that talks about growth mindset. If you've never heard of the term growth mindset, I highly recommend checking out that book. It goes into depth of how people should think about growing themselves, not just in good times, that's the obvious part, but also in times of adversity. So for example, if you do get laid off, how do you become stronger as a result of that and not just persisting through and preserving yourself through that kind of environment? And the reason I think this is really relevant for today is because in 2023, 2022, around that time, and even today, there are a lot of layoffs that have hit the industry. And I think for most people, especially people who have come through immigration visa, where you're not born in the United States and you're always concerned about your status in the country, right? Because when you get laid off, if you're on an H-1B, you have to find another job in a set period of time. So that's something that happened for a lot of my friends who were laid off in recent years, and also in 2017, 2016, when a lot of the startups at that time laid off quite a lot of employees. It wasn't the same scale as we're seeing in 2022, 2023, but still, that planted a seed in my mind about the potential of getting laid off and what to do if that does happen. Okay, back to the book, Antifragility. Why I think it's so important to think about how are you going to respond in worst case scenarios? Because even in engineering and computer science, in building software, you have to think about what is the worst case scenario and how do you build a system that is resilient to those situations. So let's say your data center goes down, or your app stops responding, or your computer crashes. Do you have logs that you're writing down? And if your logs are stored on the cloud somewhere, do you have some way of duplicating them for persistence, for redundancy, things like that? And more so in life, right? In your career, things like that do happen. How do you make sure that you are well set up not just to stay alive, but how do you thrive in that types of environment? And I think a key insight for me as I was thinking about this is the obvious ones are things like having a rainy day fund, right? I think the general recommendation is having 3 to 6 months of your expenses in liquid cash capital that you can access right away, not in something like a real estate where it could be difficult for you to cash out if you need to use it. Resume backed up and prepared all the time, keeping your skills polished so that if you need to interview or find another job, you're able to do that very, very quickly, and keeping your network connections warm all the time so that if you need to find someone to refer you, you could do that really easily. So those, I think, are the general things that people do recommend to keep available at all times, especially when layoffs are looming or people are concerned about layoffs. The other part of it is, how do you thrive in an environment when, let's say, you're laid off, right? That's, I think, a little bit more difficult. And for me, something I've been thinking a lot about is creating income, side incomes, so that I'm decreasing my dependence on a main source of income, right? So I'm just talking primarily from a financial perspective. So one thing, most software engineers are, or most people in general, are dependent on one source of income. Or some families, if you have 2 breadwinners in the family, or you have 2 earners in the family, that's good. You have 2 sources of income. But still, most people have a single source of income. And maybe you can supplement that with a side job, a side gig, whatever it is. Maybe you do Uber on the sides, or you're teaching programming on the side, something like that, right? Just to create more sources of income. And I think it's really important to basically reduce your dependence on a single source of income, so that if anything does happen, you're not completely shocked, right? So your family, if you're growing a family and the entire family is depending on you to provide for the family, then it's in your responsibility to create ways, to find ways to de-risk yourself. And a good way of de-risking that is finding a side income, right? That's something that I actually did a lot of that in 2016, 2017, and I've continued doing that because when I experienced my first wave of layoffs in 2017, it gave me a sense that job security is not a thing. It doesn't exist. I had some coworkers that had been with the company I was at for 8, 9, 10 years from the founding days of the company, and they were laid off when it first happened. And that gave me a realization that no one is safe. There's no job security. And so from that day forward, I just started to think a lot about how do you create passive incomes or active incomes, whatever it is. How do you create more streams of income for yourself? And today, I might have a separate video just kind of talking about what are the things I tried. I tried a ton of things that failed, drop shipping, all of those things that you see on social media today. I've tried all of them. I've tried writing blogs, monetizing that from ads, from brand deals and things like that. And some of them did succeed to a certain extent. Right? I'm not, startups right now. They're not like a multi-billion-dollar businesses, but my level of expectation from them, I consider them to be successful. So I can make a separate video, maybe just dedicate it to talking about those side incomes. But I think what that does do for me is it creates confidence and peace of mind that if I do lose my job tomorrow, I'm not that concerned that, all the roof's kind of off, right? Because I have all these other income streams. So yeah, I know there's just something I was thinking about because I think that's really relevant, especially in today's times of, try to preserve yourself, trying to thrive if you do get laid off. And yeah, that's all the things I really wanted to talk about today. Sorry, I didn't really have anything prepared because my team is meeting here. We have an offsite this week and I've just been sick for the past 2 weeks or so. And yeah, hope I get back a little bit stronger tomorrow and I can chat a little bit more. All right, see you in the next video. Bye.